Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and as if there's not enough to worry about these days between the potential of a recession, more layoffs, higher unemployment, we got one more to add to the list, and that would be phantom debt. That's right, consumers are in more debt than ever before, and that's only increasing, sometimes in a very sneaky way. So let's talk about this as soon as you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that already. That's all I ask for, and as a thank you for doing that, here's a picture of a puppy. So thanks so much, and now let's begin.
You've probably seen the option at checkout to split a purchase into separate interest-free installments.
Buy now, pay later is just a way of spreading out the cost of a purchase over a few installments.
The number of buy now, pay later loans increased nearly 1,100% between 2019 and 2021.
Yeah, that's because they're offering buy now, pay later on everything. It's wild. Like, I'm even seeing like $5 items that they're like,
oh, do you want to do buy now, pay later? And we could split this $6 charge into 4 installments over the next year.
I'm like, why? Who would want to finance a $6 thing? It makes absolutely no sense to me. But the thing is, the reality is that buy now, pay later, if it's offered on a website, converts way better. People use it. They spend more money when they use it, and they are more frequent purchasers when buy now, pay later is offered, even on small items. Even on like a $20 item, just putting buy now, pay later on there, the option of having that increases sales. Some people use it, some people don't. It's wild. But overall, I think, yeah, I could see the advantage of it if it's true 0%, certain charges, okay, fine. But for the most part, I think it's just playing with fire. It's like, yeah, for some people, it's going to work out in their favor. For a lot of them, it's not, though.
Where there are loans, there's debt, but exactly how much debt is still unclear.
That could imply that households are more in debt than we even know because we're not really measuring this booming space of buy now, pay later.
I think you could be missing or misrepresenting how healthy the consumer is.
Or it's simply because it's offered. It's just like, it's in your face every single place you go. Buy now, pay later is there, and a lot of people just think, you know what, I could either pay for it right now, or I could finance it for 0% over the next 6 months. So, screw it, I'll just finance it. We don't know if it's people are playing it smart like that and just leveraging their money because they're making 5.5% in a savings account, or they're just willy-nilly buying all these things on buy now, pay later, and then one day that rooster is gonna come to, what's the term? Chicken is gonna nest. I forget what the term is. We'll put it on the screen here. Like the rooster is gonna come to roost, or the chicken is gonna come to roost. I don't know.
It was first called phantom debt in this Wells Fargo report that called attention to the fact that there is no hard measure of how many buy now, pay later loans are out there, how consumers are doing with these loans, whether they're really keeping up with their payments or falling behind.
That would be very interesting to know. I want to know how many defaults over a year, how many defaults over 6 months, what type of consumer is most likely to default. I have a feeling the buy now, pay later companies, they know this. They know all the data. And they're going to extend enough credit out so that they turn a profit. I don't know to what extent, though, and how private of a company they are to have that data, what's worth it to publish. Obviously, it's profitable for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So my guess is they have some defaults, but it's not enough to put them out of business.
If you're looking at all of household debt and thinking it's all household debt, but there's this other component that's lurking in the background of this phantom debt buy now, pay later segment, I think you could be missing or misrepresenting how healthy the consumer is.
I'm sure a lot of these buy now, pay later loans, too, have different criteria depending on the company. Like some companies could be a lot more strict than others. Some have different qualifications. So I bet you're going to have different data between them.
When you look at the industry, even under Wells Fargo's own report in which they estimate the buy now, pay later industry to be around $45 billion, less than 2% are in default, or what we would say not making their payment. Compared that to over $1 trillion worth of credit card debt. And so I think we need to put it in perspective.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that overall it's not that big of a concern. The issue is that if people are doing the buy now, pay later, and slowly it's growing over time. So if someone started out with, a few $100s in buy now, pay later, that balloons to $1,000, that balloons to $2,000. Pretty soon they got all these payments that they're not quite thinking about. They're buying more because they're not thinking about those payments. One day it's going to come due. The payments are going to be more than they can handle. They start to default. We haven't really seen this through like a severe recession yet. We saw some throughout COVID, some minor downturns, but I want to see throughout a real recession what actually ends up happening.
The buy now, pay later market may be small now, but we don't know how fast it's growing. It logically follows that we simply cannot know when it will be a problem.
Just some sort of nationally measured data would be so helpful just to understand really just how big of a burden this is for households.
I think it really needs to be disclosed on all credit reports pretty instantly after you take it. The issue is going to be if somebody is doing these like $5 charges, how often is that going to update? Is that going to skew these? But it should be like a credit card, where it's like at the end of each statement, these companies got to report to the credit bureaus how much outstanding you have, what are your payment terms. But then you get into these weird issues of like, if the term's only 6 months or 3 months, buy now, pay later, do you amortize that when the loan's paid off? Do you just assume it's going to be paid off by the time the loan's due? And like, do you keep a rolling balance? It's going to be difficult for lenders to determine the true overhead of a person if they're charging these like $5 expenses to it and then paying it off.
This lack of scrutiny about whether a consumer can pay back a loan could have consequences for the lenders as well. Having buy now, pay later activity separate from the current credit check system prevents lenders from having that data to make an informed decision about whether a consumer is likely to default on the loan. But incorporating this data into credit scores can get complicated.
Yeah, see, it's not going to be a problem until it is. And when it's going to be a problem is when we have a severe downturn in the economy, when everything goes to crap, stocks drop, 20 to 50%, people lose their jobs, and then all these buy now, pay later loans are still outstanding. That is when it's going to be difficult. Until then, it seems pretty minor.
That's problematic because if you are a consumer who does rely on buy now, pay later and who has maybe a few outstanding installments, that would go against, right, how much more leverage you can take out or how much more a lender or provider would be willing to lend you money just based on your debt to income ratio generally.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing, is that lenders aren't given the full picture of exactly the profile of who they're lending to. So if they lend to me, let's say they give me $10,000 on a personal loan, but, they look at my credit and they see, wait a second, he doesn't have anything, when in actuality I have like, 20 grand outstanding of buy now, pay laters, it's going to affect your decision. So, my guess is that at some point they're going to ask you on a form that says, do you have any outstanding buy now, pay later debt? And if the answer is yes, you have to check a box and disclose it. And if you don't disclose it, then that's fraud, and they could come after you with penalties. That's my guess is what's going to happen.
There are a lot of new initiatives in the space because it's been so popular. I mean, it's clearly not going anywhere. We're going to keep seeing buy now, pay later. It's just a question of whether consumers are going to be able to keep on top of it.
So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. At some point, it's going to be a lot stricter, a lot more regulated. You're going to have to be disclosing this anytime you get a loan. In the big picture, I don't think it's going to be that serious of a concern until the economy goes through a really bad recession, in which case it's probably going to end back up with these companies. Less on the person and more like, hey, you shouldn't have been lending money to these people at these terms. That's what it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the investors of these companies, not so much the individual taking out these loans until things get really bad. But again, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Thank you so much, and until next time.